So this is how this works. Here's your stomach. And here's the small intestine, and there's your large intestine. And there's 9 stomach busters, we call them. And they are coffee, regular tea, alcohol, sugar, chocolate, salt, preservatives, artificial sweeteners, and tobacco. And so those are the 9 busters. And to add to that, we've got prescription drugs and things like aspirin, and also stress. So those are the things that are the hardest on your stomach. And we know that, you know, too much coffee, yeah, your stomach's not going to feel well. Too much alcohol, your stomach's not going to feel well. Too much of any one of those things will make your stomach feel uncomfortable because it shocks it. And so if the stomach was working perfectly, it would have lots of digestive enzyme. And with lots of digestive enzyme, it has lots of mucus to protect itself from the acid. And they've established that by age 8, many children's stomachs have already gone into shock and have already become weakened by just a constant sugar and chocolate and most of these things in here. And it's just sad that they eat so much crap, and it really does have an effect. Because a lot of people think they can just, you know, eat crappy one day and then the next day they're totally get a brand new start again, but it doesn't happen that way. It's an accumulation. And by age 40, most of us are right down with very, very little digestive enzyme. And so with the less acid you have, the stomach makes less mucus. Why make a whole bunch of mucus if you just get this piddly little bit of acid in your stomach? And so for years, I used to think I had an over-acid stomach, and this is what was happening. So you've got this little bit of acid, a little bit of mucus, and then you'll have some chocolate, you'll have a beer, you'll have a coffee, or you'll have, you know, an orange or a tomato, something that's acidic, and it immediately dries up stomach acid, but then there's no protection, so it irritates the walls of your stomach, and your stomach, it spasms, so it tightens, it squishes. So it squishes this solution up into the esophagus where there's no mucus at all, and so then we feel the burning up in here. So at that moment, it's like, wow, I have an over-acid stomach, so I'm reaching for an antacid. So I had Tums and Rolaids everywhere, right? You know, my vehicles had them, and the washing machine was full of them. They're everywhere. I had to have them to survive. And so I struggled with this. Now your stomach is, it goes through your diaphragm, which is fastened to your ribs. And it kind of pokes up through there, and your esophagus here is fastened to your lips. And so as it tightens, it's struggling against this diaphragm, and the whole thing is tightening, so something needs to give here. So it's like, you know, it's either going to suck your head down, you know, which doesn't usually happen, or your stomach starts pulling up through this diaphragm, and so it gets a bulge up in there. And that's what a hiatus hernia is. And it stretches that valve out of place in there, so to the point where you can lay down at night and the acid can run right into your throat. And so this is where this problem comes from. So now, some people could say, well, I have a genetically short esophagus, so my stomach had to stretch up through this diaphragm for it to work, but of course that's not true. People did it on their own with their diet. Now, sometimes people don't experience this to a great extent, but they do notice a pressure in here, but they notice more problems elsewhere. Because the biggest problem that comes from this, from low digestive enzyme, is you're not digesting your foods properly. And so what happens then is your foods start passing down undigested, especially your proteins. They're the hardest to break down. So as they start passing down through the intestines, and your liver is absorbing these nutrients up into itself so that it can transfer it into your bloodstream, and it'll pick up these chunks of protein that were supposed to be emulsified, but now they're being absorbed up in a chunk. And that's where your food allergies come from. And a food allergy specialist will tell you that it's always the protein in the food that your body reacts to. And why is your body reacting to a protein? Because you don't have the digestive enzyme to break it down.